Every day, the United States imports more than 4.3 million barrels of oil from Canada.
When it comes to Canadian steel, more than 90% of exports go to the U.S. Ontario is the hub, home to half of Canada's steel plants.
In fact, nearly 60% of the oil the U.S. imports globally comes from Canada. However, if Canada were to cut back on these shipments, gas prices could surge. Refineries might slow down or shut down, and the entire country could face a major energy crisis.
We read in Politico that Ontario Premier Doug Ford threatened to shut off his province's electricity exports to the United States.
For many years, the U.S. and Canada have maintained a strong energy partnership. Over 90% of the oil Canada sells is sent directly to the U.S. through massive pipelines and shipping routes. U.S. refineries, particularly those in the Midwest, are specifically designed to process Canada's heavier crude rather than the lighter oil from other regions. This arrangement has been mutually beneficial. Canada enjoys a stable market for its oil, while the U.S. benefits from a reliable supply, unaffected by disruptions in other parts of the world, such as the Middle East. However, recent tensions have begun to strain this relationship. Trade disputes have extended into multiple industries, including automobiles, dairy, and high-tech products, leaving many Canadian businesses uncertain about the future. In response, Canada is exploring new trade partnerships. The European Union, with its 500 million consumers, and the United Kingdom, even after exiting the EU, are emerging as attractive alternatives for Canadian trade. Agreements such as the CETA with the EU and a new post-Brexit deal with the UK are opening doors for Canada to expand its market access and lessen its strong dependence on the US.
CETA was finally signed by Belgium this weekend, paving the way for Sunday's much-delayed visit by the Canadian Premier to Brussels.
This raises a key question. Can Canada truly diversify its trade and become less reliant on its longtime partner, or will practical needs keep the two nations closely tied? One intriguing proposal gaining attention is the CANZUK project, a potential trade and economic alliance between Canada, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. This partnership would allow for freer trade, easier worker mobility, and shared legal and political values. By joining CANZUK and leveraging existing agreements like CETA with the EU, Canada is already broadening its market reach to over 500 million people. Expanding these alliances could help stabilize trade relationships and mitigate disruptions caused by disputes. However, it's important to note that Canada isn't looking to sever ties with the US entirely. Instead, by forging additional partnerships, Canada is strengthening its economy to remain resilient in the face of unexpected challenges. By partnering with other stable and prosperous nations, Canada is striving for a future of sustainable and secure economic growth. Could this be the country's biggest trade shift since NAFTA? Right now, Canada stands at a pivotal moment in its international trade and partnerships. While its long-standing relationship with the U.S. has been strong for years, recent tensions are sparking doubts. Some Canadians are beginning to question whether relying so heavily on the U.S. is the best strategy, especially after remarks from U.S. leaders that have left many feeling uneasy. Instead, Canada is turning its attention to Europe, a region known for its strong economies and shared values like democracy and human rights. One proposal gaining traction is CANZUK, a plan for Canada to partner with the UK, Australia, and New Zealand to form a new economic alliance. This group would promote easier trade, harmonized regulations, and greater freedom for people to live and work across member nations. Beyond reducing its heavy reliance on the U.S., this shift is opening doors to new opportunities. But it's not just about forging international ties. It's also sparking changes at home. In response to trade tensions, some Canadians are even boycotting U.S. products as a way to stand by their principles.
Well, Canada's built its entire economy on this idea of trade and access to the US market. So limiting that will lead to a deep recession. And it's going to be bad for the US as well, but
This growing trend could put significant pressure on U.S. companies, forcing them to rethink their global business strategies. By strengthening ties with Europe and forging new alliances, Canada aims to enhance both its trade and security. A closer partnership with Europe could provide better market access, increased cooperation on global issues, and added protection against potential threats from major world powers. Could this shift truly impact the U.S. economy? While some fear it could lead to job losses in the U.S., Canada's strategy isn't about cutting ties. It's about diversifying its trade relationships. By securing new deals and partnerships, Canada is positioning itself for a more stable future, ensuring it isn't overly reliant on a single trading partner. Politics and everyday actions by Canadians are reshaping the relationship between Canada and the U.S. After a brief pause in additional tariffs, tensions between the two neighbors ease slightly, but underlying friction remains. Canadian leaders aren't just working to smooth things over, they're also actively seeking new trade partnerships in Europe and beyond to reduce their reliance on the U.S. remarks, such as the U.S. president jokingly suggesting that Canada could be the 51st state left many Canadians feeling disrespected, fueling a strong sense of national pride and a desire to assert their independence.
Sat at the same table saying Trump suggested Canada could become the 51st state if Trudeau didn't like the tariffs.
Canadians across the country began expressing their pride and standing up for their values. The hashtag #BoycottUSA quickly went viral on social media, with millions advocating for buying Canadian and European products instead. Many families even canceled trips to the U.S. as a way to support Canada's economy. Slogans like "Canada is not for sale" and the widespread display of the Canadian flag became powerful symbols of this movement. These actions had real economic consequences. Canadian airlines, such as WestJet, reported up to a 25% drop in bookings for U.S. flights, leading to fewer flights and schedule changes. Meanwhile, the U.S. tourism industry suffered an estimated $2.1 billion loss, with around 14,000 jobs impacted. It wasn't just airlines that felt the impact. Hotels, restaurants, and retail stores in the U.S. also took a hit. The U.S. and Canada have long shared a deeply interconnected economy, trading approximately $1.2 trillion in goods annually. They rely on each other for essentials like energy, automobiles, metals, and food. Even a slight disruption in this relationship can ripple through prices, supply chains, and job markets on both sides of the border. Canada's bold moves serve as a powerful reminder that in today's global economy, every decision can create far-reaching consequences. Now, the U.S. must reconsider its own strategies both at home and abroad. The big question remains, does Canada's push to diversify signal the beginning of a larger economic shift? And how will the U.S. respond to these unexpected changes? Now, if you like this video, check out this next video right here.